Shalom is your first and foremost. Everyone give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Kakadash, Jabbar, the apostles, and else great millstone for teaching us his true peace and blessings to the whole of Israel. Yahweh is the name of the Father in Hebrew, Ba'ashem is the name, and Yahweh Shah is the name of the begotten Son. Back in our lesson, and as seen in the title, dark times are ahead. And going to be going to the situation at hand, dealing with this blackout that took place over there in Europe. And got many other videos to go along with it, and especially what this devil has been alluding to, dealing with the an EMP attack, the grid going down. They've listed a number of things like an EMP attack, solar flares, and they also mentioned in this case a cyber attack, but then they changed it into it was something like a phenomenon that took place in the sky or something to that effect. But you see this devil, pointing the fingers elsewhere. And Watson, he's been alluding to this for a good minute now, And really this is this devil doing a test run. Nothing but a test. And you had, a few people in the comments are now starting to, for lack of better words, peep game. Are now starting to kind of see what this devil's playing at, And stay starting with the apostles and also on down, especially over that great millstone, as I feel like my brothers on down have been warning you and telling you these things are to come. The things that the devil's getting ready to do. Because this is all, part of his plan ultimately. Going to order out of chaos. And a lot of these situations that you see today, this devil has his hand in it. Because with this, he can swoop in as a so-called hero with a solution. But I don't want you to be rambling on too long. I do have a decent amount of videos that you want to get. Because this is pretty much big news. This is a prelude of what's coming to Babylon, aka America, which is really the point I was wanting to make throughout this lesson. So let's dive into it.
Okay, absolutely insane breaking news. Multiple countries in Europe are currently dealing with major nationwide power outages. So the worst affected seems to be Portugal and Spain, and multiple cities in those two countries like Madrid and Lisbon. Traffic lights have turned off, trains have gone dark, shops and restaurants, they've lost power. The Madrid Open, that's had to be suspended because the power cut mid-play. The Spanish railway operators, they said that the entire grid just cut. And so there's these videos.
You can just imagine the amount of chaos that will erupt from this. Now you even have movies, going into the grid pretty much going down, and just going to show this devil putting it in front of your face. That's called predictive programming, or truth in plain sight. That's the devil's way of telling you of what they're getting ready to do. Their plans. And this whole grid going down is one of them. Whether they blame it on a foreign nation, an enemy nation like China, Russia, which they've also been saying, a cyber attack, an EMP attack, a solar flare, some type of phenomenon, which I believe he's going to mention within this or another video I'm about to get. But once you see the devil always pointing the finger elsewhere. And you have that saying, you have one finger pointed at, something, and you have, 3 or 4 pointing at yourself, Just, give an example.
Of people walking in these dark tunnels, like, what the hell is going on? So this obviously has caused major chaos, but mostly confusion as well, because as of right now, like recording, no one really knows what is going on. And it's crazy because this is nationwide and multiple countries as well, and there's still no idea. The Spanish government were the first to comment, and they said that they are holding an emergency meeting to determine the cause. There are also some reports of parts of France being affected, and also Belgium as well. And people are also reporting that cell service went down, like Wi-Fi and like things like WhatsApp messages.
So the type of times we're coming into is finna get bad. This is why it's important to seek Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, because if you're without the hedge, without the protection of the Lord, hey, you're through ultimately. Just putting it plainly. They don't make these movies for nothing, dealing with the purge. And once they already made examples of what kind of would have happened if an EMP attack took place. So you should imagine and see how bad it's going to get. As we can also get throughout the scriptures of the coming times, 2 Timothy 3:1, how perilous times shall come. And what you see just examples within these movies. And you see what's in this situation right here. Nothing but a prelude of what is to come, an example. This is nothing but a test run.
Aren't even going through. Oh, and how's this one for ironic? They've had to go back to cash. Long queues have started forming at ATMs because card payments and contactless payments, they're also down.
See if any of these comments have to say. Let's get another video.
This is wild.
And this is more of an update on the situation.
Authorities are now saying that the nationwide power cuts that we're currently seeing in Spain and Portugal were caused by, quote, a rare atmospheric phenomenon.
So that's what I was speaking about. So at one point it was a cyber attack, now it's a rare atmospheric phenomenon.
Quote, a rare atmospheric phenomenon. Yeah.
See, obviously, something is fishy here, and especially if you've been, keeping watch, especially, as prophets, it's our duty to keep watch, especially as those watchmen, which you get in Isaiah 62. As I brought up the point in the beginning of this lesson, this devil has been alluding to this for a good while now. Of this grid being, shut down. And they have been planting the seeds, so when these things do happen, people point to the reasons they pretty much want you to believe. Dealing with a cyber attack, a solar flare, a rare atmospheric phenomenon. And people are going to eat that up. They're not going to bat an eye or question, this devil. This is why you get Isaiah 30:1-3, how the trust and shadow of each shall be your shame and your confusion. As well as going into Ecclesiastes 12, which I also did that scripture later on, going to never trust thine enemy. This devil's not to be trusted, man. See what these commenters just say. Yes, rare atmospheric phenomenon, sure. As I brought up that point, people are now somewhat starting to peep game. Are now starting to question this devil. Because really Esau's being revealed, and who's at the forefront of that? The prophets, the men of the Lord, which Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai set up. Starting with the apostles and elders down over that great millstone. They'll blame it on Russia anytime soon. And also brought up the point earlier because they said there could possibly be an attack from Russia or China, whatever the case may be.
Trust me, this whole situation is getting weird. Today, in cities across Spain, Portugal, and even some parts of France, government buildings lost power. Fuel stations were unable to operate pumps. Some people's water stopped working because they relied on electricity. Planes couldn't take off for a while. Traffic lights switched off, causing chaos on the road. Cell service was disrupted, and people couldn't even pay for stuff with their cards or on contactless. So now we're starting to see long lines of people trying to withdraw cash. And the craziest part, at the beginning, they said that they'll be back to full service within 10 hours. Now, Portugal is saying that it could take up to a week to be back at.
And I was about to bring up that point. Now imagine if this took place in Babylon, which it will. Time will tell. But you can imagine just the blackout taking place for days or weeks on end. You can imagine the chaos that will erupt. And that's where this devil's going to establish that control, declaring martial law. Gain that control once again, order out of chaos. This is what they want, total control. And this is, a way of them doing it.
Full volume. So, what the hell was that atmospheric phenomenon that... Well, to be very honest, when Portugal released their statement, it confused everyone.
There were anomalous oscillations in the very high voltage lines, a phenomenon known as induced atmospheric vibration.
And this is why you get in scriptures in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, how we're not ignorant of Satan's device. We know this devil's game. You know, the narrative game. The devil not to be trusted once again. Everything he says is to be taken with a grain of salt. Because once it was a cyber attack at first, and now it's a rare atmospheric phenomenon, and which is where they're, let's be right here, just mocking. It says they run anomalous oscillations in the very high voltage line. I mean, come on.
These oscillations cause synchronization failures.
And let me just say how it is. So these were the temperatures over the last few days in...
And I do want to get a few more videos, I believe 1 or 2 more, and I'll get these scriptures. Just want to get these videos out the way, especially just to showcase what's unfolding. Because once this is an example of what's coming to Babylon, America.
Oh, even the FBI chief warned us. Look, watch this shit to the end.
We had no power and no prospects of getting any.
And once then they show you within TV shows, cartoons, movies of their plans. As you've seen right here.
Don't worry, kids. The government will help. The government cannot help itself, let alone you. So to take your...
Hey, Isaiah 31:3, the trust in shadow you should be your shame and your confusion. The trust in this place, in Esau, Edom will be your downfall, will be your demise.
minds off your troubles, I propose some kind of games, either hunger or squid.
Do you remember when the elect FBI chief warned us? Look, this is what he said, so just listen to this shit.
Power grids are like 60, 70 years old.
It's gonna be cool when the lights go out.
Exactly. And people are like, oh, that just happens in that movie Die Hard or something. Like, no, it's not that hard to shut off a power grid through a cyber attack.
How vulnerable is it to outside attacks?
It's big because once they hit it, we can't fix it fast.
If the grid goes down, we'll eventually just ourselves out of desperation. There will be no food, there'll be no water, there'll be no medical, there'll be no communication. How likely is that method of attack, do you think?
Something's gonna happen.
That's why everyone in my family has a...
And he's an ad in this video, but see what the comments have to say.
Oh, this is what...
And this is another video right here showcasing that blackout. Says not covered by American news equals we're next, and hey, he's right. Once this is nothing but a test, man. And this person also brought up a good point. It's the reason to avoid digital money, electric cars, and you wonder why this stuff has been pushing new electric cars for a good while now. Dealing with Tesla as well as there's other companies, creating electronic vehicles. And they show you in that one movie on Netflix, I forget the exact title of it, but there's one particular scene where you have a bunch of Teslas just piled up in the road. Not working. And this is what I was bringing up earlier. It says, sound like a test run for the world. See how people will act. And there you go. Correct. And the person also brought up just like the 19, which is also another good point. So to you should imagine how devastating this will be for Babylon, aka America. And it's going to be much worse, because this is where the main destruction and judgment will take place. So it's going to hit America the hardest.
So I'm sure most have heard about the Portugal and Spain blackout. Like shit tons of people have lost power in those two nations. And initially they thought it may have been a cyber attack. I was thinking maybe it was a coronal mass ejection from the sun that can cause power outages, so decided to look into it. Have you heard what they're saying now? This is interesting. I don't know what the fuck to make of this. So the latest reports are now that a rare atmospheric phenomenon involving extreme temperature variations in the interior of Spain has been identified as a key factor. Extreme temperature variations in the interior of Spain.
So you see, people are not knowing, what to believe. And that's why you get in the scripture in Isaiah 33 and 6, how wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. Go and show the importance of having this knowledge of this word, this truth. No true understanding. Because it comes these last days, people are going to be seeking and looking for answers when they had it in front of them this whole time. But the time for the scriptures at hand, didn't want to make this too long of a lesson, but there's a lot of videos I wanted to get. Because, I was scrolling through TikTok and a bunch of videos popped up regarding that blackout. A lot of people were also questioning what may have caused that blackout. And you obviously have this devil doing damage control saying it's a cyber attack, and then on the other hand saying it's a rare atmospheric phenomenon. And you already know how the devil is when it comes to that word phenomenon. But the second Ezra 16 and 17 through 18 now says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? So, got the scripture going to show the type of times that we're coming into and just how bad it's really going to get. Chaos is getting ready to erupt, man. This is why you get within the scriptures, to seek the Lord now. I made a lesson just a week or two ago a lesson titled, pushing the spirit of urgency, something to that effect. Many of our people don't have that sense of urgency. That's why you get Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 7 going to, putting off the Lord from day to day. But to seek him now. Because the Lord's getting ready to destroy this place, man. And as you get through, scriptures going to show the type of times we're coming to and just how bad it's really going to get. It's one thing to speak on it, but to be a whole nother story when you're actually in the midst of it. This is why it's important to fear the Lord and to be in the good graces of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, because you do not want to be on the receiving end of these judgments, man. Read out verse 18 one more time. The beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death. And there's another lesson I want to make. And Lord will go into it later, dealing with this situation, dealing with the ports. They're not having, it filled with loads, with goods. So you're obviously going to see, a scarcity of food start to begin. Storehouses being cleaned out. And it's getting serious, man. Now it says, and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall it do when these evils shall come? So this is going to show just how bad it's going to get out here. This is Amos 5 and 18. This is also another good point. That says, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. So once another example of just how bad it's going to get out here. As you can also get within other scriptures going to how we're spiritually, in Sodom and Egypt. And you also saw what the Lord did back then. In ancient Egypt, those plagues that he sent upon that place, especially dealing with that darkness. So I thought it'd be, fit in scripture, but it's going to show the type of times we're coming into and how it's not going to be, just rainbow hugs and kisses as people are hoping. And I said, what sorrow awaits you who say, if only the day of the Lord were here, you have no idea what you're wishing for. I want to keep you on that point. It's like if I sound like a broke worker, just going to show the times that we are coming into, just how serious it's going to get, man. This is that day will bring darkness, not light. As you get in the scriptures, 2 Timothy 1, perilous times shall come. Terrible times are ahead. So seek the Lord now. This is 2 Ezra 15:19. A man should no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation. And you basically people want to be doing things that they want to do when crap pops off. When things hit the fan. Especially when that grid goes down. When communication goes down. When people are unable to call the cops. Emergency. For example, as you see, as I was probably pointing the lesson done with these purge-like movies. Another example of the type of times we're coming into. And just the type of spirit that these people are going to be coming in, man. Why they get Matthew 24:12, the love means waxing cold. So you can imagine a lot of people's, food, that their goods are going to go bad. Within the refrigerator, their freezer. So you can have people, looking for food, people that are without food. Gonna be looking for food, so you just imagine, man. I was reading right here. And man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. What's the modern day sword? The gun. Dealing with these weapons. And that's why I was bringing on that point earlier. Why it's important to seek the Lord. Because if you're without that hedge, you're through. Because it's finna get very serious out here, man. Now, then, spoils are goods because of lack of bread. So, without food, then it's lack of food. It's scarcity of it. And that's why I was also wanting to, go into that other lesson, which I was going to later, dealing with, the situation with the ports. So, you can see lack of goods, lack of food. Especially coming within these last days in general. And as it spoils are goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation. So you're going to have homes being broken into, people being killed left and right, people killing each other over food. You may have people, waiting outside stores for people to come out with food or goods and take it up off of them. Listen to examples, man. And Lord's lesson is edifying. Just flowing through the spirit. It's talking about sound like a broken record in certain points. But this is also Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 10. Also brought this point earlier, is to never trust thine enemy. For like his iron rests, so is his wickedness, and his devil not to be trusted in any case. So that's why I brought up that point, dealing with, take everything this devil says with a grain of salt. Because you already saw, what he was trying to push. It said it was a cyber attack, and now it's an atmospheric phenomenon, and he's just not to be trusted, man. And we know how this devil operates, the way he moves, as we can also get right here in 2 Corinthians 2, verse 11. Lest Satan should get revenge of us, for we are ignorant of his devices. So we know how this devil is with his propaganda machine. At controlling the narrative and all this stuff. So once again, he's been also planting the seeds and pointing the finger elsewhere. So when these things do happen, people already know the so-called reason as to why it happened. Like a, what did I say? A cyber attack, a EMP attack, and a solar flare. That's what I was thinking of. A solar flare attack. So they've been planting the seeds for a good while now, and really have been alluding to this grid being, brought down. As you once saw within that quick clip going to the Simpsons of an EMP attack. They show you within these movies and cartoons, man. Which is why we get in 2 Corinthians 2, verse 11, lest Satan should get revenge of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. We know what this devil's playing at. And we know that, especially with situations like this, he has his hand in this. Because we know he wants to, establish that control. There's that saying, order out of chaos. As in Revelations 11:8, and a dead body shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So we're going to get that point, as I brought up earlier, dealing with, we're spiritually in Sodom and Egypt. 2nd Ezra 15, 11 through 12. Further go into that. But I'll bring them with a mighty hand and stretch their arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before. And you saw what the Lord did back then. As before, and will destroy all the land thereof. And we just read in the previous scripture going to how we're spiritually in Sodom and Egypt. Verse 12, Egypt shall mourn, the foundation shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So the Lord is smiting this place, man. And I want you to just play within those couple of videos an example of what's coming to Babylon, aka America. And that's the point right there. I don't want to stall the lesson, make it long as it be. But Lord was edifying, so make a lesson go into that situation at hand and sound the alarm as we're to do. So I do want to close out and give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Al Shah Ba'Shem Kakadash and Shalom. See you in the next one, Lord will.